What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late in the day on Monday. The big news of the day is Randall Cobb's injured ankle. News brought to you by Michael Cohen, who ran into Randall at the airport, heading back to Wisconsin. That's how you break the news these days. Michael saw Randall wearing a protective boot, and Randall obviously was reticent to talk about it, but we have learned that it is an ankle injury. We don't know whether he had a procedure done on it or not, but it sure sounds like he will be slow going early on in training camp, which undoubtedly they'll err on the side of caution and give those young guys a few more reps in his stead. But it does sound like he is on target to be available for week 1, which is obviously is good news for the Packers. But yeah, that's the news of the day, but I did want to jump on and see what's on your minds and say hello to all these fine people talking and chatting away here in the comment section. Wayne, hello. Juan. Demario says, Cobb hurt, sign Dez. If they played remotely similar positions, that may be a possibility, but I don't think that's going to happen. Bring back Sterling Sharp. I don't think that's going to happen. Do you think people are worrying too much about Cobb? Well, I don't know, Zach. I don't know how much they're worrying, but it's always concerning when a guy suffers an injury away from the facility, away from the practice field. We don't have any details on exactly what happened yet. I'm sure Randall will talk about it once camp opens up in 4 weeks or so, but the fact that he's not going to be ready for training camp lets you know that it's at least somewhat significant, and it'll be interesting to see how cautious they are. Given the fact that Randall's been in the offense for so long, for as many years as he has, and they do have this influx of young talent at the position that they're undoubtedly going to want to get on the field. I think they can afford to err on the side of caution here, but it will also be interesting to watch how long this period lasts where they don't have him practicing early on in camp. Do they put him on the PUP, the training camp version of the PUP? Because if that were the case, then he's not allowed to practice while in the PUP, and then once he does practice, he has to come off of it. But it's just something to monitor, something to see how seriously it seems to be hampering him once we get to Green Bay at the end of July. But for now, it's just probably just a minor annoyance more than anything else for Randall. Hey Aaron, any way to intern for me? Omar, not currently, but if they open it up, I will let everyone know. Can you say... I could, yeah. Hello from Costa Rica. What's up, Felix? Trade him. Yes, someone's definitely going to trade for an injured wide receiver set to make $9 million in 2018. Baller plan. Graham and Lewis just became more valuable. That's possible. Again, it doesn't sound like this is going to have any effect on him as far as his availability for week 1. So, things will carry on much as they have been, but certainly the presence of 2 dynamic tight ends will mitigate any kind of loss if it comes down to it with Randall. T.O. time. Oh, this T.O. stuff is hilarious. Terrell Owens is not stepping foot on an NFL football field ever again. Just get used to it. And I know most of you understand that, and I'm sure I'm just speaking to T.O. Can we beat the Vikings with their defense, with the Packers' defense? Drew, absolutely. The greatest advantage the Packers have is Aaron Rodgers, but yes, the Packers absolutely can beat the Vikings. Now, will they? That remains to be seen. Ask me closer to the actual contest, but, as the teams are drawn up right now, sure, they can beat anybody. The kids here in Minnesota need a shout-out. What's up, kids in Minnesota? More touches for the Young Bucks? Yeah, Levi, I would tend to agree that whatever time Randall Cobb ends up missing will actually kind of benefit the Packers as a whole, because it will mean more reps for those young guys. And it'll be interesting to see who they give the most chances to in the slot where Cobb predominantly operates. McCarthy and his coaching staff have talked it up all offseason about how these young guys need to learn all three spots, but now this should open up a few more opportunities when it comes to reps in camp inside. So we'll see. What does your gut tell you about Kizer? Oh, my gut. No one needs to be listening to my gut. I don't know. I need to see him. I know people talked about his early struggles there in OTA's minicamp. I don't really put too much on that, just because we don't know what they're looking at, what they're calling, what they're trying, what the design of each period is for, et cetera, et cetera. Let's get to some team stuff in training camp, and then we can start, forming an opinion on Deshone Kizer in Green Bay. But for now, I don't think we've seen or heard or, been privy to anything that could tell us one way or the other. Bears make enough moves to go from last to first in the division? It was not, you can't say it's impossible. You can't completely dismiss the idea simply because we saw the, Los Angeles Rams do exactly that last year. And a big part of that was changing coaches, bringing in an offensive mind who really shook things up and completely turned around their offense. And Matt Nagy definitely has that ability to do something similar with a young quarterback down in Chicago. But I think the odds are long on worst to first for Chicago, but I do think they'll be an improved football team. Are you a Madden guy? You bet I am. We really could use another vet at receiver, though. Real talk. Marvin, I agree. I've been advocating for them to sign Des Bryant since Bryant became available. I think he makes a ton of sense in Green Bay, but I don't think they're going to go that route. They're going to, see what they've got as far as these young guys go. I know they're excited about Jamon and Equiminius and all the young bucks, including the guys left over from last year. So I think they're going to see what they've got first. Who do you think the team to beat is in the NFC? I have no idea at this point, but Tony Romo recently said that he thinks the Packers are the team to beat. Romo also said that the Packers are the most improved team that he saw all offseason. I don't know if I agree with that, but it's interesting coming from a guy who's watched a whole heck of a lot of football and whose job now it is to analyze the game, who once played at a very high level. Dez is overrated. Yeah, I don't know what exactly that means when you talk about overrated. Rated by who? Who's doing the rating? Dez can still run a slant and can still win a 50-50 ball, can still run a back shoulder fade like nobody's business, and those are all areas where Rodgers excels. You put him in the red zone, he could still be a weapon. It's a cheap one-year deal. It's not overrated to me. Romo don't have a ring. Oh, I see. So that invalidates everything he says. So what? He doesn't have a ring. So what? Neither does Dan Marino. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play. Cobb is useless. Well, that comment is useless, that's for sure. Wait, what happened to Cobb? Just joined in. Will, check PackersNews.com. Cobb has an ankle injury. Not quite sure how it happened, but our Michael Cohen was on the same plane with Randall Cobb, heading back to Wisconsin last night, and noticed that Randall was wearing a boot, a protective boot on his foot. So that's all the news that's fit to print. But yes, make sure you check PackersNews.com. What was my favorite Don Majkowski moment? Probably when he sang "Every Rose Has Its Thorn," and that lives in infamy on YouTube. You should check it out. Could Raji play fullback? Raji did play fullback, at least for one snap. Strength and conditioning. I had this on Twitter earlier today. I fail to see how a player injuring himself away from the facility on his own personal time falls on the strength and conditioning staff. That's just me. I'm a simpleton, but that's where I fall on that. Maybe the boot is to psych out other teams very, very early. Mary, I think you're onto something. How about putting Montgomery in the slot? Zach, I'm sure that will be looked at, and I'm sure they will run him there quite a little bit throughout the year, but definitely early on in Cobb's absence in camp. I think we've seen him do stuff out of the slot. He's got a skill set that works there. And now that Cobb probably won't be working a whole heck of a lot at the start of camp, I'm sure they'll give Montgomery some opportunities there. How did Cobb injure his ankle? We don't know. Haven't been able to find that out yet. But we'll see. Like I said earlier, I'm sure Cobb will talk when camp opens up at the end of July, and maybe we'll get some answers then. If Mike McCarthy does not win another Super Bowl, will he be on the hot seat? I don't know if it's Super Bowl or you lose your job quite yet in Green Bay, but I do think they have to have I think a good season where they win the division, get in the playoffs, make a run. I think he's fine. I think 9-7 wild card, they bow out in the first round, he could be in trouble. They go 8-8 with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback for 16 games. Yeah, he's fired. I think there are levels of where Mike's job will be in jeopardy, but it's not Super Bowl or you're fired. At least not yet. Is Davante Adams' contract a steal compared to other wide receivers? I'll tell you what, if it's not yet, it will be soon. Whenever the Packers do this, whether it was Bakhtiari when they signed him, or Mike Daniels, or Davante Adams and Corey Linsley last year, at the time, it's always trumpeted as this huge deal, and they you see the gaudy kind of guarantees, and you think, wow, that's a lot of money. I think Davante Adams became the 4th highest paid wide receiver when the deal was signed, but it only takes 2 or 3 new deals to make that kind of drop into like top 10, and all of a sudden he's not even a top 15 guy, etc. in like 2 or 3 years. So the Packers have done a really good job of getting out ahead of those kind of things, and they do so in the knowledge that the salary cap has been hovering around $10 million every year. So when they lock these guys into these 3 and 4 year deals, they're getting a jump because they know that they're going to have extra room to play with, and they're getting those guys well below what the market would bear if they actually hit free agency. Raji would replace McCarthy if he's fired. Everyone knows that. Mary, I like it. Can Raji play wide receiver? 2 Raji questions in a row. It means it's time to go. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to your question, but I'll be back tomorrow, barring any breaking foot news tonight. In the meantime, make sure you check Michael's piece up at PackersNews.com. Should have all your answers that I didn't get to in regards to Cobb and his availability for training camp. We've also got our Packers opponent previews. We've got the Bears and the Vikings up already. I believe Washington will go up, if it isn't already. It'll go up later this evening. All sorts of great stuff for you guys to check out. So make sure you check out PackersNews.com. Till tomorrow, have a great night.